dear friends, today we are going to discuss the various type of frames while discussing outcome and ecology. I have discussed ecology, the various aspects of ecology and outcome, because ecology is very important whenever we talk of neuro-linguistic programming to make the best out of a personality. So what are these frames? What do we mean by frames? What are these different types of frame when we talk of outcome and ecology? Now, a frame is a word we use to define or describe the boundaries around an experience or an event. A kind of boundary, that is the frame. It's another way in which we filter our perceptions of our world based using our mental template or our internal representations. This is usually outside of our conscious awareness, like other filters that operates. Yet, it creates automatic ways of thinking about things. There are different types of frames in NLP, and we are going to discuss each of frame. And we all know that what are these frames while discussing ecology and outcome. Now, ecology frame, this is an important frame because it is about maintaining integrity and creating win-win situation for all concerned. This frame is particularly important for a client. Ecology can be considered on 4 levels. First, for the individual. Second, for their family or business. Third, for their community. And fourth, for the planet. Because as we discussed, ecology, the surrounding, the atmosphere, and the frame is the kind of mental template. So whenever we talk of ecology frame, it is about the win-win situation for all concerned, and at 4 level, individual, family, community and planet, we can make it or we can apply it. Now the second is as if frame. This is also a type of frame when we discuss the frames of neuro-linguistic programming. Opens up the option for the individual, gives them an opportunity to explore what else is possible by acting as if. That is hypothetical thinking. They have already achieved their outcome. In a number of NLP processes, the as if frame takes the form of a visualization, and acting as if is one of the first steps in modeling someone else's behavior. While discussing neuro-linguistic programming in previous lecture, we discussed that flexibility is very important. That is to say, the behavioral flexibility. If you give this option to your character, to your mental frame, that if this does not work, maybe some other work, and you can use some other possibility, some other resources. Now, as if frame fits into that. Hypothetically, when a person, individual is open, and when it is open, the aspect, the character is open, then an opportunity is always there to use other resources. If this is not, then it is. And if it is, then what will happen? So, in one of the first step is modeling someone's else's behavior. As if frame is that important. Backtrack frame, it is also one of the important frame. When someone is wandering, bring them back on track. That is the backtrack. In a few minutes, I am going to ask you to backtrack. It reviews the information presented to check for understanding and also enhances rapport. To be able to backtrack effectively, you need to listen carefully to what others are saying. Suppose I am delivering a lecture in the class, and I am delivering a talk on a particular topic, well, that goes on and on, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 lectures. To review all those, I may use this backtrack frame so as to get the feedback from the listener. And this is a good kind of therapy, because if you go for backtrack frame, suddenly you will get the feedback that they have in their mind. So it is a kind of review kind of frame to get the things that is already there previously. Now, evidence form. This style of framing is designed to determine a person's evidence procedures, the observable evidence that a person uses to define whether or not a goal has been successfully achieved. This is obtained from sensory specific language that describes what will be seen, heard, felt when the desired outcome is achieved. By asking like questions, what you are doing, what you have earned, what you have achieved. These are the evidence form if the client can show the evidence. Now, evidence frame again, so key frame in NLP. The purpose of this frame is to ensure that the outcome is grounded in reality by using a sensory, a specific evidence procedure. This means stating it in clear detail with what will be seen, heard, felt when an outcome has been achieved. A good question for the NLP coach to ask is, how will you know you have it? Or what evidence will you accept that tells you that you have your outcome? Now, contrast frame. By asking a question like, how is this different from the current situation? Then as an NLP coach, you are assisting the client to access additional information through a contrastive perspective. Another good question to ask is, what is the alternative? This leads the client to create other choices, which can then be assessed. Now again, we can remember or we can recall the very importance of behavioral flexibility. There should be more scope to get more resources. Relevancy frame. The relevancy frame, also known as a relevancy challenge, is specifically intended to help keep communication flowing in a desired direction. You can keep a person focused on a preferred topic by asking questions about how their comment, statement, question, reply, answer is relevant to the current goal of the meeting or interaction. Now, some example of the relevancy frames are, how does that relate to the issues we are looking at now? What relationship does that have to the topic at hand? Positive frame. Positive framing is the process of taking a negative or neutral experience and extracting the beneficial outcome that resulted from the experience. Blame frame. The blame frame uses contrasting example as a way to assist others to understand the significance of new concepts. The blame frame possesses a series of questions that are problem oriented and lead to experiences of limitations and lack of choice. Now, these questions demand explanations of why a person doesn't have what they want based on their existing excuses and justification. Blame frame is important in a way so as to make or to highlight the limitations of a person. Where a person, gets this kind of failure. What are those factors? So, it is really good to know the excuses and justification while applying this blame frame. Open frame. An open frame provides an opportunity for anyone to raise any comments or questions about the material that interests them. This frame can promote inclusion and therefore build rapport with participants and can be applied in various situations such as in a training environment or in a meeting too. Backtrack frame. that I have already discussed earlier, but it is very important in the sense that it can be used to check agreement and understanding during and at the conclusion of a meeting, to update a new arrival or to restart a discussion. Backtracking is accomplished by reviewing the available information, using the keywords and tonality of those who brought the information forward at the beginning. Now, each person filters informations like official purposes, like work purposes, like any feedback. Contrast frame. A contrast frame is a comparison between two separate thoughts or ideas. It is very important, as the backtrack frame is important or relevancy frame is important, because a number frames are there to check the ecology, to get the outcome. So, it is a kind of comparison between two separate thoughts or ideas, and used to make a comparison in which the opposite comparison has not been recognized. And the best example is, what if I told you that we have charged $1,000 per day, yet we aren't going to charge you that, we are only going to charge you. I mean, this is the contrast frame. If this is like this and if this is, the tussle between the two and then the outcome, what will happen? To some extent, it resembles, it reflects as if frame also. Now, we have discussed as if frame. The another is what if frame. The what if frame is based on the premise of pretending to believe something different. Now, again, it is hypothetically. As if frame, hypothetically, if I were that, if I am that. The what if frame, also known as the as if frame, is used to assist a person to consider more ideas, options and possibilities that they may not have otherwise considered. The intention behind is that by facilitating that person in trying on those different. So, in a way, what if frame and as if frame go together or move side by side. Purpose frame, as the name is purpose, the very objectivity. The purpose frame provides a way to satisfy the purpose of a person's request without necessarily giving them what they actually ask for. Now, a demonstration is there how to apply the purpose frame using two imaginary individual. Suppose Tom and Jerry. For example, Jerry will be using the purpose frame to address a request made by Tom. You can take two distinct persons with two different objectivity, and then you can apply this frame on them to get the purposeful result. Agreement form. The agreement frame is a strategy to redirect a person's argumentative energy rather than attempting to overcome it. The agreement frame can be called positive frame. So, agreement frame, one of the best methods to reduce resistance when communicating with people, especially during negotiation. As we all know that negotiation and persuasions are the two important factors of neuro-linguistic programming, based entirely on this, that how to negotiate with a person and to persuade so as to get a positive agreement. So, the agreement frame takes one or more of the following form combination, like I respect also, I appreciate and I agree also, and refrain from using I, that is the individualistic attitude. Now, ecology and outcome, because while discussing all these frames, as I discussed, that frame is the mental template, and this mental template forces you to move accordingly, as if frame, what if frame, purpose frame, positive frame, negative frame, backtrack frame, relevancy frame, that what is the circumstance that you move on to achieve the best out of neuro-linguistic programming. So it is in context of the ecology and outcome. So ecology and out frames are important in considering neuro-linguistic programming in order to ensure that the impact of achieving the outcome is positive for the individual, and that achieving it is congruent with all the overall goals and desired code of conduct of the individual, with a positive note for others. Frames are designed or strategies to train people in various situations. Now, I would like to highlight a little more on the outcome frame and ecology while discussing this meta concept of meta. Meta design, meta strategy, and as in the previous lecture I discussed that the concept of meta correspond with the first and the original neuro-linguistic training that Alfred Korzybacki conducted in 1940s. That was before the term meta, because meta means beyond. That was before the term meta had been developed. So he described and labeled these processes in a different way. For instance, instead of going meta, he talked about abstracting to a higher level. Instead of running an ecology check, he talked about developing consciousness of abstracting instead of running your own brain. He talked about taking control of and slowing down your semantic reactions, that is meaningful reactions, a different language but referring to the same mind-body dynamic. Structurally, the meta state differ from primary states because they take into account meta levels of abstracting. This is what makes them more complex, layered and complicated. It makes them less driven by the sensory modalities and more by the higher modalities. This is so because meta state need the meta representational system of language to move us to a higher logical level to abstract about the previous level. This also explains the awesome power of both neuro-linguistics programming meta model of language that allows us to deconstruct, that is to unglue non-productive meta-state language abstraction that falsely, erroneously, inaccurately or unchangingly construct realities, and the Milton model of hypnotic language for constructing, gluing together, empowering meta-state. This means that when we engage in a strategy analysis, that is checking with different frame, work with a state that involve meta level, that is modeling using meta level, we need to incorporate not only the horizontal and linear structure analysis of traditional neuro-linguistic programming strategies, but also the meta state structure when the brain goes to meta levels to access a state about a state. Now, for today it is over the ecology, the outcome and the different frame, because this is the final outcome of ecology. And as I told you that in neuro-linguistic programming, ecology is very important because you have to train the client, and this ecology is very important for a coach, for a trainer. Why it is important? Because a coach or a trainer has to dig out the mental state of the client or the customer or the trainee. Now, to dig out, to find out the real mental state of the trainee or the client, one has to go through all the steps, all the aspects, including the ecology check, including the outcome reality. So, while going through the various frames from as if to what if, the constructive, the destructive, the positive, the negative, the hypnotic, Well, we have to take care of the mental frame of a particular client very seriously and dedicatedly, because neuro-linguistic program requires a good kind of concentration, a mental dedication to train the nerves, the stimulus of the brain. With these words, I just conclude today's session. Thank you very much.